Every night, billions of lights illuminate our planet. Behind that glow lies an energy source that has dominated the world for more than a century. People call it black gold, but in reality, it is far more powerful than gold itself.
Oil is not just fuel for cars and airplanes. It is the raw material behind plastics, medicines, fertilizers, and countless products we use every day. A world without oil would, quite literally, be a world that could not function as we know it. Every day, the world consumes nearly 100 million barrels of oil. Giant tankers move across the oceans like arteries of the global economy. And behind every voyage lies an invisible struggle for power.
5 regions of the world hold the majority of humanity's oil reserves. Each is a center of power with its own geopolitical story. Together, they form a global chessboard whose outcome is still uncertain.
The story begins in 1859, when Edwin Drake drilled the first successful oil well in Pennsylvania. No one standing there knew they were about to change human history forever. From that moment on, oil and power became inseparable.
In less than a century, oil reshaped civilization itself. It fueled wars, built empires, and toppled governments. If the history of the 20th and 21st centuries were rewritten without oil, it would be an entirely different story. An organization founded in 1960 would become one of the most powerful alliances in the world. OPEC, where the decisions of fewer than 15 countries can shake the global economy. They may not command armies, but they control something every nation needs.
Every second, billions of dollars change hands on global oil markets. A headline from the Middle East, a sanction from Washington, or a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico can shake prices instantly. This is a market that never sleeps and never forgives. Beneath the dry sands of the Arabian Peninsula lies one of the greatest treasures on Earth. Nearly half of the world's proven oil reserves are buried beneath this land. The Middle East is not just a region on the map, it is the energy heart of the planet. Ghawar, a name that commands respect across the oil industry. Stretching more than 250 kilometers, it is the largest oil field on Earth, producing over 5% of the world's oil supply each day. For decades, this single field helped shape global energy prices. From barren desert, oil transformed poor lands into glittering megacities. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, once little-known names, are now symbols of wealth and ambition. Yet behind the dazzling skylines lies an unsettling question. What happens when the oil runs out? Every day, roughly 21 million barrels of oil pass through the Strait of Hormuz. More than 20% of the world's supply. It is the most critical energy choke point on Earth. Only 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest. If this strait were ever blocked, the global economy could feel the shock within weeks. Every OPEC meeting is watched closely by presidents, prime ministers, and CEOs around the world. A single decision to cut or increase production can send fuel prices soaring across entire continents. It is a form of power that requires no weapons, only the turning of oil valves. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and the world understood this was more than a territorial dispute. Beneath the conflict lay vast oil reserves and the fear that a single power might control them all. The United States led a coalition not only for stability, but to ensure that oil would never fall under one dominant hand.
Iran, home to the world's fourth largest oil reserves, has long turned energy into geopolitical leverage. Each time nuclear tensions rise, global oil markets react instantly. Tehran understands one simple reality: as long as it controls energy, it holds a voice on the world stage.
Saudi Arabia understands that oil is not merely a commodity, it is diplomatic power. Thanks to the resources beneath its desert sands, Riyadh sits alongside Washington, Moscow, and Beijing on the global stage. And it has used that influence carefully to secure both stability and prosperity for the kingdom. In 1973, Arab nations imposed an oil embargo against the United States and its allies over support for Israel. Within months, oil prices surged nearly 400%, triggering a global economic crisis. For the first time, the modern world truly understood those who control oil can shape the fate of nations.
The Middle East has long been the dark heart of the global energy system. Every conflict, every agreement, every decision from this region sends ripples across the world. And even as the planet moves toward renewable energy, that heart has not yet stopped beating.
Beneath the frozen ground of Siberia lies one of the planet's greatest energy reserves. Western Siberia alone provides more than 70% of Russia's oil production. It is a brutal landscape, yet it forms the foundation of Moscow's geopolitical ambitions.
Russia controls one of the longest networks of oil and gas pipelines on Earth. These pipelines do more than transport energy. They carry geopolitical power. Every valve along those lines represents leverage the Kremlin can use when needed.
Vladimir Putin once described the collapse of the Soviet Union as the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. Oil and gas became the tools he used to rebuild Russia's influence. When oil prices rise, the Kremlin grows stronger. When they fall, Moscow begins to feel the strain.
Nord Stream, a 1,200-kilometer pipeline beneath the Baltic Sea, became a symbol of Europe's dependence on Russian energy. For years, more than 40% of Europe's natural gas came from Russia through pipelines like this. Until the war in Ukraine changed the equation forever. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, Western nations launched unprecedented sanctions against Russian energy. For the first time, Europe was forced to confront the real cost of energy dependence. And Russia discovered that the weapon of energy could also turn against the one who wields it. During the winter of 2022 and 2023, Europe faced its worst energy crisis since 1973. Governments urged citizens to reduce heating, while factories slowed production to conserve gas. It was a harsh lesson. When your energy depends on your rivals, they hold leverage over your future.
As climate change melts the Arctic ice, Russia sees a new opportunity emerging. Scientists estimate that 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and 30% of its natural gas lie beneath the Arctic. Moscow has moved quickly to claim influence across this frozen frontier. Russia remains one of the few countries capable of withstanding economic pressure, thanks to its vast energy reserves. Yet dependence on resources also creates vulnerability. When oil prices collapsed to around $30 per barrel in 2016, Russia's national budget immediately felt the shock. In the heart of Texas, a quiet energy revolution reshaped the balance of global power. Hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling unlocked billions of barrels of shale oil. In less than a decade, the United States transformed from the world's largest oil importer into its leading producer. The shale oil boom created millions of jobs across rural America. Small towns in Texas, North Dakota, and Wyoming suddenly became centers of the global energy industry. For many Americans, shale oil represented more than technology. It symbolized independence. In 2015, the United States lifted a 40-year ban on crude oil exports, marking a historic turning point. America was no longer just energy self-sufficient. It had become a direct competitor to OPEC. The global energy order established after 1973 was fundamentally reshaped. Canada holds the world's third largest oil reserves in the vast oil sands of Alberta. Extracting this resource requires enormous energy and creates more environmental impact than conventional oil. Yet when prices rise, the economic incentive often outweighs environmental concerns. American oil giants like ExxonMobil, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips operate as economic empires. At times, ExxonMobil's annual revenue has surpassed the GDP of more than 100 countries. Their influence in Washington can rival that of entire foreign governments. The debate over the Keystone XL pipeline divided the United States for more than a decade. On one side stood jobs and energy independence. On the other, climate concerns and the future of the planet. Keystone became a symbol of the global struggle between economic growth and environmental protection. In April 2010, the Deepwater Horizon drilling rig exploded, triggering the largest oil spill in U.S. history. For 87 days, oil flowed relentlessly into the Gulf of Mexico, devastating marine ecosystems. BP ultimately paid more than $65 billion in compensation, but no amount of money could fully restore the damage done. For ordinary Americans, the geopolitics of oil is reflected in a single number: the price of gasoline per gallon. When fuel prices rise, presidents lose political support. When prices fall, the economy breathes easier. Oil does not only power engines, it also shapes American politics.
Beneath the Orinoco River Basin lies the largest proven oil reserve on Earth. More than 300 billion barrels of crude sit beneath Venezuelan soil, exceeding even Saudi Arabia's reserves. It is one of the great paradoxes of the 21st century. The country with the most oil on the planet has struggled to build a stable economy. At the peak of the crisis, supermarket shelves in Venezuela were empty, while billions of barrels of oil remained underground. Inflation soared to levels exceeding 1,000,000% per year, a figure almost beyond economic comprehension. It became a textbook example of what economists call the resource curse.
Hugo Chavez rose to power in 1999 with a vision of using oil wealth to build what he called 21st century socialism. He nationalized the state oil company, PDVSA, and poured oil revenue into massive social programs. When oil prices were high, he was celebrated as a hero. When prices collapsed, the entire system began to unravel.
More than 7 million Venezuelans have left the country since the crisis began in 2014. It is the largest migration in modern Latin American history, driven not by war, but by economic collapse. Beginning in 2019, Washington imposed sweeping sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry. The stated goal was to pressure the Maduro government, yet the economic consequences were felt most by ordinary citizens. Once again, oil became a pawn in a global geopolitical game. Venezuela once produced more than 3.5 million barrels of oil per day. Today, output has fallen to a fraction of that level. Oil rigs stand idle, engineers have fled abroad, and infrastructure has deteriorated. The nation with the world's largest reserves now struggles to fuel its own economy. The Orinoco still flows, the rainforest remains green, and the oil still lies beneath the soil. Venezuela's story is perhaps the most tragic example of oil wealth, not because of a lack of resources, but because of how they were managed. The question of who truly benefits from oil may haunt this nation for decades to come. The North Sea, one of the coldest and most unforgiving waters in Europe, hides oil fields that reshaped the continent's history. When oil was discovered here in the late 1960s, Norway transformed from a modest economy into one of the richest countries on Earth. The North Sea proved that geological luck, combined with wise governance, can rewrite the destiny of a nation. Norway achieved something few oil nations ever manage: responsible stewardship of natural resources. The country created a sovereign wealth fund, now worth well over $1 trillion, to invest oil profits for future generations. While some oil states collapsed under the weight of their wealth, Norway became a model of sustainable prosperity. Brent crude, named after a North Sea oil field, has become the global benchmark for oil pricing. More than 70% of international oil trades are linked to this standard. A name born in the cold waters off Scotland now serves as a reference point for the entire world economy.
After Brexit, the United Kingdom faces a far more complex energy dilemma. North Sea production is declining, while the pressure for a green transition continues to grow. Britain now stands at a crossroads between extending fossil fuel production or accelerating the shift toward a low-carbon future.
On the night of July 6, 1988, the Piper Alpha oil platform exploded, killing 167 workers. It remains the deadliest offshore oil disaster in history. The tragedy served as a grim reminder that every barrel of oil carries a human cost. Today, the North Sea reveals two worlds side by side. Aging oil platforms slowly decline, while massive offshore wind turbines rise from the waves. In this single landscape, Europe's energy transition is unfolding in real time.
In 2023, global electric vehicle sales surpassed 10 million units for the first time in history. Elon Musk and his competitors are creating a shockwave the oil industry cannot ignore. The question is no longer whether electric cars will replace gasoline vehicles, but how quickly it will happen.
The cost of solar power has fallen by more than 90% in just 15 years, an unprecedented drop in the history of energy. Today, building new solar capacity is often cheaper than operating many coal or oil plants. And unlike oil, sunlight belongs to no single nation.
At climate summits like COP26 and COP28, more than 190 countries pledged to reduce emissions and transition away from fossil fuels. Yet promises and actions are often very different things, especially while oil revenues continue to flow.
Saudi Arabia is investing hundreds of billions of dollars into Vision 2030 to prepare for a post-oil world. The $500 billion NEO megacity represents that ambition. Yet the gap between visionary plans and real outcomes may take decades to bridge. China, the world's largest oil importer, is investing heavily in a future beyond oil. The country produces the majority of the world's lithium batteries and leads the electric vehicle revolution. Beijing understands that whoever controls battery technology may shape the 21st century. While much of the world debates renewable energy, new oil and gas discoveries are emerging across Africa. Countries like Mozambique, Uganda, and Ghana may be entering their own petroleum era. The question is whether they will repeat the mistakes of the past or forge a different path. At forums like Davos, energy executives warn that the world may be underinvesting in new oil supply. They argue that a rapid energy transition without preparation could trigger future shortages. This debate sits at the heart of the modern energy dilemma. In the future, millions of kilometers of pipelines and thousands of oil platforms may need to be decommissioned. The cost of dismantling and environmental restoration could reach trillions of dollars.
It is the enormous bill left behind by the age of oil.
Oil has created immense wealth, yet that wealth has rarely been distributed equally. Millions of children grow up in regions rich in oil but poor in opportunity. And in their eyes remains a question humanity has never fully answered. Who truly owns the oil beneath the ground?
5 regions, 5 different stories, yet all revolve around a single resource. From the scorching deserts of Arabia to the frozen fields of Siberia, from the plains of Texas to the rainforests of Venezuela, oil has written the history of the modern world. The choices made in the coming decades will determine how that story ultimately ends.
Every barrel of oil burned leaves a trace in the atmosphere of our planet. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It is unfolding right now. For the first time in history, humanity must consider stepping away from the most powerful energy resource it has ever possessed.
Oil is not the enemy. It is a teacher that revealed both the power and responsibility of human civilization. The real question is not when oil will run out, but whether we will be wise enough to move beyond it before it's too late. And the answer lies in the choices we make every day.
Oil was formed from hundreds of millions of years of life and death on this planet. Humanity has burned through much of that legacy in barely 150 years and called it progress. Whether future generations look back with gratitude or regret is a question being written right now.